Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into a topic that's both mind-boggling and incredibly exciting?
I'm ready.
Today it's all about stem cells, those tiny powerhouses with the potential to revolutionize medicine as we know it.
I think revolutionize is the right word.
Right. We're working with a script called The Magic of Stem Cells. And honestly, the deeper we go, the more magical it gets.
You know, that title isn't far off. When you consider what stem cells can do, heal injuries faster, maybe treat diseases that were once considered incurable, even possibly grow entire organs, it does feel like magic in a way.
It's amazing. Imagine a world where organ transplant waiting lists are a thing of the past because we can just grow new organs.
That's exactly the kind of revolutionary potential we're talking about here.
It's incredible.
But before we get too carried away with the possibilities, we need to start with the basics.
Okay, back to basics.
What exactly are stem cells?
Yeah, what are they?
Think of them as the ultimate blank slates in your body cells that can transform into a huge array of specialized cell types. So they're not like, say, a liver cell that's stuck doing its liver things.
Exactly. Unlike a liver cell that's committed to its livery duties, a stem cell has options. It can become almost anything. That's what we call differentiation. The process of a stem cell turning into a specialized cell with a specific job.
Okay, I'm following.
But there's another amazing thing about stem cells. They can also make copies of themselves. This is called self-renewal, and it ensures there's a constant supply of these versatile cells ready to go whenever and wherever they're needed.
Okay, so let's say you get a cut. Stem cells in the area would assess the damage and spring into action, dividing and transforming into new skin cells to heal the wound.
Precisely. It's like your body has this incredible built-in repair crew working at a microscopic level.
Wow.
And that's just one tiny example.
Yeah.
Stem cells are working constantly in your body, doing all sorts of regeneration every day. But to really get a sense of their possibilities, we need to understand that there are actually different types of stem cells.
So there are different types of stem cells. Fill me in Stem Cell 101.
You've got your pluripotent stem cells, the real all-stars. Think of them as chefs who can cook anything. These are typically embryonic stem cells. They can become virtually any cell type in the body.
Embryonic. So these are the ones you hear about in ethical debates.
Exactly. But then you've also got what are called multipotent stem cells, which are often found in adults. Think of these more like specialized cooks, really good at a specific kind of cuisine.
Yeah.
They can still become various cell types, but just within a particular family like blood cells or muscle cells.
So a blood stem cell could become different kinds of blood cells, but it couldn't just become a brain cell.
Exactly.
Cool.
And, one of the most well-known examples of multipotent stem cells are the ones found in bone marrow hematopoietic stem cells, they're called.
I've heard of bone marrow transplants.
Right. Those transplants have been around for decades, and they're a real-world example of stem cell therapy in action, not just some futuristic concept.
That's really cool. So stem cell therapy is already happening.
It is. Bone marrow transplants have been saving lives, showing how powerful these cells can be for treating and even curing certain diseases. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Scientists are exploring a huge range of potential applications for stem cells in medicine. Regenerative medicine is one of the most exciting areas.
Okay, you've got my attention. What kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Well, for instance, imagine being able to repair damaged heart tissue after a heart attack.
That would be huge, like a second chance at a healthy heart.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. Researchers are also looking at stem cells to treat neurological conditions, things like Parkinson's disease. The idea is to replace the brain cells that are lost in Parkinson's, maybe halting or even reversing how the disease progresses.
Wow. I've also heard about stem cell treatments being researched for diabetes that affects so many people.
Yes, another very promising area. Scientists are working to develop stem cell-derived beta cells that could make insulin again in people with type 1 diabetes. That would mean no more insulin injections for them.
It seems like there's almost no end to what stem cells could potentially do in medicine. It's almost overwhelming to think about.
It really is a rapidly evolving field. There are discoveries happening all the time. It's still early, but the potential to change how we treat and cure diseases is just remarkable.
It's incredible. But I know there must be challenges too, right? Stem cell therapy isn't a magic wand that can fix everything overnight. What are some of the hurdles scientists are facing in trying to harness these incredible cells?
You're absolutely right. It's not a magic wand.
Yeah.
And there are definitely challenges. One of the biggest is safety. Stem cells have this incredible ability to multiply very quickly, which is great for repairing tissues, but it also brings a risk of uncontrolled growth, potentially leading to tumor formation.
So it's like a tightrope walk, trying to use the regenerative power of stem cells without letting them get out of control.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
I can imagine.
Another challenge is making sure the stem cells go to the right place in the body and actually work the way they're supposed to. You don't want them ending up where they shouldn't be and causing unexpected problems.
That makes sense.
And then there's the issue of cost. Stem cell treatments can be very expensive, which means not everyone who could benefit can afford them. Making them more affordable is a major obstacle.
So it's not just about the science, but also about making sure these treatments are available to everyone who needs them.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, there's also the issue of unproven treatments. There are clinics out there making big promises about miracle cures using stem cells, but they're often preying on people who are desperate for solutions.
Oh, wow. So buyer beware.
Absolutely. It's crucial for people to do their research and be wary of clinics offering stem cell treatments that sound too good to be true, especially if they're not FDA approved. Stick with the therapies that have solid science behind them.
That's good advice. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit, let's say 10 or 20 years into the future. What do you think stem cell research and therapy will look like then? What's your vision?
That's a great question. Well, for one thing, I think we'll see a much greater emphasis on personalized medicine, creating stem cell therapies that are tailored to each patient's individual genetic makeup.
So like stem cell couture.
Exactly. And as we learn more about stem cells, I think we might even see the possibility of growing whole organs in a lab from a patient's own cells. That could completely change organ transplantation, maybe even eliminate organ shortages altogether.
Wow. No more waiting lists, no more worries about rejection. That's incredible.
It's definitely a bold vision,
Yeah.
but given how much progress we've already seen in stem cell research, I think it's possible.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Stem cells truly hold the key to so many medical mysteries. It's like we're on the brink of a whole new era in medicine where we might be able to beat diseases that once seemed unbeatable.
I agree. The future of stem cell research is really exciting, and I think we're only just beginning to understand what might be possible.
This deep dive has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. It's amazing to think about the potential of these tiny cells. I can't wait to see what happens next.
My pleasure. Stem cells are a fascinating topic, and I'm always happy to talk about them.
And for everyone listening, stay tuned as we continue this deep dive into the world of stem cells. There's a lot more to discover, and we're just getting started. We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll go even deeper into the science and the possibilities of these amazing cells.
You know, as we were talking about all the potential applications for stem cells, it really struck me how diverse the field is becoming.
It really is. It seems like stem cells could revolutionize so many areas of medicine, from treating heart disease and Parkinson's to even repairing sports injuries. It's like they're this universal toolkit for the human body.
And I think that gets to the very core of what stem cells are. They're the building blocks of our bodies. So it makes sense that they can hold a key to so many different conditions.
It's almost like stem cell research is making us rethink how we approach medicine in general. Instead of just treating symptoms, we're starting to look at ways to actually repair the damage at a cellular level.
I think that's a great point. It really is a paradigm shift in how we think about healing and regeneration.
I want to go back to those induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs, for a minute. You mentioned that scientists have figured out how to reprogram adult cells like skin cells to act like embryonic stem cells.
Right.
How is that even possible? It sounds like science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a reality, thanks to some truly groundbreaking research. Essentially, scientists have found a way to reset these adult cells. They do this by introducing certain genes that act like switches, turning on the stem cell potential that's hidden inside them.
So you're basically erasing the cell's memory of being a sping cell and giving it a fresh start.
Exactly. It's like rewinding the clock on those cells.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really opened up so many possibilities for stem cell therapy.
I bet.
Because iPSCs come from a patient's own cells, you can potentially avoid the ethical questions surrounding embryonic stem cells and reduce the risk of rejection during treatment.
That's amazing. But even with iPSCs, I imagine there are still challenges when it comes to actually using them in therapies. What are some of the things scientists are still working on?
Well, one of the big ones is controlling the differentiation process. Remember, we want these iPSCs to become the specific cell types we need, whether that's heart muscle cells or neurons or insulin-producing cells.
Right, it's like guiding them down a particular path, making sure they become the specialists we need.
Exactly. And that's not always easy. Scientists are still refining the techniques to get those iPSCs to become the right cell types consistently and efficiently. It's a very complex process.
It sounds like an amazing puzzle.
It is. But researchers are making progress, and new discoveries are happening all the time. It's a very dynamic and exciting field.
I can imagine. And safety is still a top priority, even with iPSCs, right? We talked before about the risk of uncontrolled cell growth. That's still something scientists are very careful about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the fundamental challenges with stem cells is their ability to multiply so rapidly.
Right.
That's crucial for their regenerative power, but it also means we have to be extra careful to make sure they don't grow out of control and form tumors.
So it's a balancing act, harnessing that power, but keeping it within safe boundaries.
Exactly. And scientists are working hard to develop safeguards and make sure these cells behave the way they're supposed to once they're in the body.
That makes sense. It's incredible to think about how much progress has been made in stem cell research in such a short time. It wasn't that long, though, that it was considered practically science fiction, and now we're talking about potential treatments for all kinds of diseases.
It's amazing, isn't it? And the discoveries just keep coming. It really is an exciting time to be working in stem cell research.
It feels like we're on the verge of some major breakthroughs.
I agree. I think we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible with stem cells. The next 10 or 20 years could bring incredible changes to medicine, unlike anything we've seen before.
It's almost hard to imagine the possibilities. Growing organs, repairing spinal cord injuries, even reversing the aging process.
All of those are areas that researchers are looking at, and some of them might not be as far off as they seem.
That's incredible. Okay, I have to ask, with all these potential benefits, are there any downsides or risks with stem cell therapy that we need to be aware of?
That's a really important question. Like with any new technology, there's always the chance of unintended consequences. We have to be cautious.
So what are some of the things we should be thinking about as this field keeps advancing?
Well, one concern is the possibility of unexpected side effects from stem cell therapies. Even with lots of testing, there's always a chance that something could happen once those cells are in the body.
Right, because it's still new territory in a lot of ways.
Exactly. So we need to be careful and make sure we're not rushing into things without understanding the long-term effects. And, of course, ethical considerations are always going to be important.
I can see that.
We need to have open conversations about the moral and societal implications of this research and make sure we're using this technology responsibly.
It's a powerful tool, and we have to be very mindful of that.
Absolutely. It's up to us to use this technology wisely for the good of humanity.
Well said. This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I'm feeling excited about the potential, but also aware of the need to be cautious and responsible.
I think that's a great way to put it. Stem cell research is an amazing field full of promise and challenges. It's up to us to move forward carefully and with integrity.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this wraps up part 2 of our deep dive into the world of stem cells, but stick with us. There's still so much more to explore. In part 3, we'll be looking at some of the most mind-boggling possibilities, like growing organs in a lab and revolutionizing drug development. All right, so we've talked about the potential of stem cells, the challenges, the ethical considerations, but what really captures everyone's imagination is this idea of growing organs in a lab. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but are you telling me this could actually become a reality?
It's definitely one of the most exciting areas of stem cell research. Imagine a future where there are no organ shortages, where people don't have to wait for a transplant. It's a really powerful idea.
It is.
And it's not just about replacing damaged organs. Think about the possibilities for testing new drugs and therapies. We could use lab-grown organs and see how they work with much more accuracy.
So instead of testing drugs on animals or even human volunteers, we could have these personalized lab-grown organs that would give us a much clearer picture of how a drug might affect a particular person.
Exactly. It could revolutionize drug development. We could test different dosages, different combinations of drugs, personalized treatment plans based on someone's genes. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
That's mind-blowing. Okay, so walk me through this. How do you go from a few stem cells in a dish to a whole working organ?
Well, it all starts with those pluripotent stem cells, the blank slate cells we talked about.
Yeah.
Scientists have to guide these cells so that they differentiate into the specific cell types that make up the organ we want. For example, if you're trying to grow a heart, you need heart muscle cells, blood vessels, valves, all those intricate parts that make a heart work.
So it's like a cellular orchestra, with each cell playing its part to make this complex organ.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about getting the right cells. We also need to provide them with the right environment so they organize themselves into the proper 3D structure.
So they need some kind of guidance to make sure they build the organ correctly.
Exactly. Researchers are experimenting with all sorts of things, like scaffolds, which can be natural or synthetic. These help guide the growth and development of the organs.
So like a framework to build on.
That's a great way to think about it. And all of this happens in a very controlled environment.
I bet.
They use bioreactors, which are basically like high-tech chambers that mimic the conditions inside the body. They carefully control the temperature, the nutrients, the oxygen, all the things the cells need to grow and develop.
It sounds incredibly complex, like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It is. And there are still many challenges to overcome. But scientists are making progress. We've already seen lab-grown tissues like skin and cartilage used successfully in medicine. So growing whole organs is the next big step.
It's amazing to think that we're even having this conversation. A few decades ago, growing organs in a lab was just a fantasy. But now it feels like we're on the verge of something truly revolutionary.
I agree. The progress in this field is astounding. And while we're still in the early stages, I'm confident that we'll see major breakthroughs. Sooner than we think, maybe.
It's so exciting. And it's not just about replacing damaged organs. We talked about drug development. But what about using lab-grown organs to study diseases, things like cancer or Alzheimer's?
Absolutely. Lab-grown organs could be a game changer for disease research. We could study how diseases progress, test new therapies, and even understand how genetic mutations affect things. It would be an incredible tool.
It feels like stem cells are not only a medical breakthrough, but also a scientific one. It's like we're seeing the human body and the very essence of life in a completely new way.
I couldn't agree more. Stem cell research is transforming our understanding of medicine, of biology, even of what it means to be human.
Wow. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of stem cells to these mind-blowing possibilities of growing organs and changing the face of medicine.
We have. It's been quite a deep dive.
I'm definitely walking away with a sense of awe and excitement. But also, I'm realizing how important it is to be cautious and ethical as we explore these possibilities.
I think that's a great takeaway. Stem cell research holds such promise, but we need to move forward with both enthusiasm and a deep sense of responsibility.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking us on this incredible journey into the world of stem cells. It's been an amazing conversation.
It's been my pleasure. It's a topic I'm incredibly passionate about.
And for everyone listening, stay curious, keep learning and exploring. The world of stem cells is full of wonder, and I have a feeling the most incredible discoveries are yet to come. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.